Increasing your minimum nights further out into the future is not an optimized strategy, and I'm gonna tell you why, and I'm gonna go into my price labs and show you how I'm doing my minimum nights and why you do not want to be so complex on minimum nights. You're generally missing a lot of revenue by doing that. Barisa wants to say hello. Hello. She will be joining us for this call. Now, my question to you would be, why wouldn't you be okay with taking 2 nights well far into the future at a fair or likely a premium? If you haven't watched my video specifically on premium rates, you might want to do that. That's the whole argument. If I know what I'm doing on my pricing, then why would I restrict that in the future? We wouldn't. That would not make sense. So now look, there is a lot of different minimum price settings, and I'm gonna open up my price labs right now and take you into it. The thing is, if you know my strategies, then you know my 3-step troubleshooting protocol. Pricing is the 3rd step. The first step is optimizing the online listing. The second step is hospitality. The 3rd step is pricing. But here's the thing. Here's the very interesting thing I have only recently realized, is that of the revenue pie, the online optimization of your listing makes up 20% of the potential revenue pie. Hospitality, represented in your reviews, makes up 30%. People can copy you there. People can copy your listing layout, the title format if you follow my strategies, the bullet points. You never used to see that before I started putting them in many years ago. Now it's semi-common. People can copy your hospitality. There's a lot of people who are good hosts and they have a 4.9, a 4.95, but pricing, which makes up 50% of that pie, no one sees. No one knows your pricing. They can't copy you, and it has the biggest effect on your profitability. It's worth your time to pay attention. Unless you're already confident in pricing, and if you are, I'm not sure why you would be watching this video, but I'm actually kind of curious. What is your confidence level in pricing? As you know, I break things down into 3 levels. You should watch that video. Put down 1, 2, or 3, what level you're at in pricing. By the way, for those of you who have seen parts of my videos before, look, 75% of you are new viewers to my channel. So I repeat myself. If you don't want me to repeat myself, then subscribe to my channel, and then, okay, 75% are subscribers. Then I'm gonna talk more to existing subscribers. So we are now in my dashboard here. Let me switch the language and the money, and we're gonna go into, and I recommend you do this too. So downstairs in the comments, you've already said if you're 1, 2, or 3 confidence level, and then we're going to confirm that. So if you said 3, then what I want you to do is go to occupancy and rates, occupancy rate, select your best listing, and then switch over time to similar listings and compare it to similar listings, okay? You should be well above, you don't have to be 32%. That's ridiculous. It's good, but you should be well above. You shouldn't just be kind of hovering above the dotted line, which is your similar listings. Well above. Okay, that's number 1. Now, that only is really important. What I see happen a lot is occupancy rate is high, but nightly rate is average. So then next, go to your nightly rate, and Airbnb will tell you how you are doing with similar listings. Now, if you said you're a 3 and both of your solid lines are not above the dotted lines, then you're not actually a 3. This is proof now letting you know that if you want, I'm gonna put a link actually to my pricing power hour. I let hosts in who want on my Wednesdays. On Wednesdays, I review my pricing. We're over to Price Labs now. So let's stick with that listing I just brought up. And if you go into edit, then you will see stay restrictions here. That's a separate item. Also, if you already have stay restrictions, Price Labs puts it here in the currently applied. Let's go to stay restrictions. So we're gonna talk about orphan nights. We're gonna talk about whether it makes sense to increase or decrease the orphan night days. And we're also gonna talk about whether it makes sense to change your minimum night. And I'm gonna argue why it's not in a different way in a moment here. So we have minimum night settings. Nowadays, you have to turn this on. You have to tell them. So I'm 1. There's actually a couple interesting settings here, but I wouldn't. Booking value, for example, is like, okay, I want to make 300 per reservation. So whether that's 1 night or 4 nights, that minimum night is dynamic based on that. All right, so orphan gaps. They come into play when, well, let's look at this, far out booking. So if we add far out bookings, I'll cover that one first. Well, so let's say I have a 1 night, but I'm gonna say 2 night beyond 60 days in the future. I understand why you would do that because, you know, it's so far out in the future, just be a bonus reservation. So why not get 2? Or more likely, you have a 2-night reservation and you go 3, or you go 4 on the weekends. You add it up on the weekends. But I'll refer back to the flexibility concept, which says that you have levers, a bunch of levers, and you can be as flexible or as least flexible, as restrictive as you want. When you're increasing your minimum nights, you are making yourself more restrictive, less flexible, and thus you are lowering your demand. You're lowering the pool of FPGs that might book your place. But if you know your pricing, if you're following my pricing strategy, which I went over more fully in other videos, then you know that 60 days in the future, you're gonna get a 10% premium anyways. So if someone's looking for 2 nights in the future, I'll take that 10% premium rather than lose out that reservation trying to go for 3 nights, which there's less people searching for 3 nights in the future in this market, in most markets, as that number goes up. Now, a winning strategy is actually getting those days filled up further out, but at premium. So you're realistically not going to get a lot of those filled up, but to grab a few, yes. To lose a few because you're trying to get an extra night doesn't make sense. I hope that makes sense. Now, last minute bookings, a lot of the times people will have a 2-night minimum stay on the weekends, let's say 3 on the weekends, 2 on the weekdays, 3 on the weekends. In the future, they raise it up to 3 on the weekdays, 4 on the weekends. We already know that doesn't make sense. And then last minute bookings, they say, okay, all right. My strategy isn't working, so I have to, within 10 days, let's just do it 1 night. All right, well, you see how that doesn't make sense? So now you're exchanging a far out booking at 2 nights at a premium rate for a single booking below your rate. That doesn't make sense. Please turn that off. Unless you have a very good reason, in which case I want to hear from you. And then orphan gaps is only applicable if you have more than 1 night minimum. So in this example, I have 2 weekdays and 3 weekends. So I would do like the length of gap, or if if the length of gap was 1 night or 2 nights, that just becomes my new minimum. And it has to be in between 2 reservations. So if my minimum is 3 nights and there's 2 nights in between a reservation, then that minimum becomes 2 nights. Does that make sense? You can also apply that within a certain amount of days. Now there's a separate setting I'll go over before I talk a little bit more about my Airbnb pricing power hour. Orphan day prices in conjunction with orphan day new minimums. You can raise or lower those orphan days. So your minimum is 2, but you have a 1 night gap. Okay, you'll take a 1 night gap, but there's a party risk, so you only want that 1 night gap for a 20% premium. You can do that. I don't want to save any of this, so I'm gonna exit out. My minimum is 1 night, and I understand, by the way, that does not work for some markets. That's okay. You don't have to copy me. All right, I have just done something big. I believe it's the biggest thing I have ever done. It came to me a few months ago, and I implemented it last week, 8 days ago. And I'm calling it the Airbnb Pricing Power Hour. I go in every Wednesday and I price my own listings. I've been doing this for a decade. I will do it for as long as I do Airbnb, which for me is a very profitable venture. So I will be doing Airbnb for a very long time. Now, I decided, because I do consultation calls, people pay me hundreds of dollars just to talk to them privately, and I say the same thing over and over and over about pricing. Explain my pricing strategy. I have videos on here on YouTube. You can watch all of that stuff, but it dawned on me, for pricing specifically, it seems to just need a little bit more hand-holding. There's some real live questions, some nuanced questions for individual situations, and I can't cover those on YouTube because YouTube doesn't do well covering very nuanced questions. Maybe in the comments, I answer them, but sometimes there needs to be back and forth. So I decided, okay, what if I let hosts in on my Wednesdays? They can see me price my listings in various markets across the globe. I do it every Wednesday, actually, but we meet once a month because in between that month, you have some homework and some things to test. We take it slowly. Let's see, if you type in Airbnb pricing power hour, if it comes up on Google yet. It does. Look at that. And I've even got an AI overview. Airbnb Pricing Power Hour refers to a monthly online class offered by Optimize My B&B, a service run by former Airbnb employee, where he demonstrates real-time pricing adjustments on active listings to help us boost rate. Oh, wow. That's true. The goal of the Airbnb Pricing Power Hour is to increase your occupancy and increase your nightly rate. It's very simple. In between the classes, I'm going to give you access to the forum. You can ask other hosts there. I'm also very active on there. People are a little bit shy. I am the one answering all of the back and forths. But as the community grows, this is very new. We're going to be able to help each other out and even further boost our occupancy and revenue. When you join, you lock in your price forever. I'm never gonna raise it, okay? And you're able to cancel whenever you want. My pricing strategy works everywhere around the world. If you want to dive deeper on these topics, if you want to join me one-on-one, because I am answering a lot of questions, as many as I can, then consider joining this. There's a couple reviews on there you can read, and I'm gonna end this video. There's been a few videos that I've already released. There's gonna be a few more on as specific as I can go. This video is still pretty specific. We're talking about minimum nights. In other videos, I did all of the customizations. That video did very well. This video might not do so well, is my guess. You can help me with a like though, with a share. Share it with your Airbnb host. Be that host, this host you share it with. They're gonna be very happy you did that. Remember, your Airbnb isn't underperforming, its pricing is under optimized.